Before we start, I'd like to apologize for neglecting this channel for months, actually, from now on. But hey, we're finally back, one way or another. And about this story again, it has changed a lot since I've made the first animations for this one, and just the idea of coming back is so distant right now. That doesn't mean I'm gonna burn all the bridges and say no animation anymore. Not like that. But things are changed. They are changed. But really, besides that, I hope you're gonna enjoy the story. Also, in this video's description, I'm probably going to add the text form of the story. I've written in Google Docs. Also, special thanks for Stick for Writer Bros Discord server for some feedback, and also special thanks to freelancers Della Joy and artist Hipsnake for awesome cooperation. Also, this video probably has some post-credit commentary. I don't know, maybe, but from now on I'm going to include that. Little bit about my own opinions about this chapter and all. But hey, enough. Let's start the story itself. Chapter 4: The Gathering. Silver Eye was severely disappointed by his subordinate's answer, because he was the one who felt betrayed and held back by the King of Order. You think we should try to preserve someone's legacy? We are now our own faction, not limited by grounded beliefs, Silver Eye stated in a smug and arrogant manner. As someone who viewed his own dreams were shattered by those grounded, he tried to distance everyone around himself away from them. The guard's captain was not finished yet. He had his own vision, and he felt it was more suitable for the rest of the raiders than Silver Eyes. What you wish then? What was it when everyone questioned your motive and aim when the first obstacle came? You are a smart man, a genius, I see. That does not mean you understand how humans behave and think. If we are not unified by a belief for something bigger, that will doom us to tear each other apart. If we are not unified by a belief for something bigger, that will doom us to tear each other apart. I wish for one hegemony of the Order Empire, and so might my fellows. Your wish, your motive. What was it that your dreams were destroyed by? The captain was not holding back. His own worldview and place in it had been thrown completely around, inside out. He feared that it was like for nothing. If his master seemed like an incompetent team player without a vision prepared for more than just ultimate power. Ironic it was. In Silver Eye's case, the captain turned out to be quite correct. He always kept his further motives in the mist and never made it out what he was trying to accomplish. On top of it was his appearance. A man with very theatrical speaking style, with odd and abrupt mood changes. A silver bow as replacement for a lost eye, and a cape which covered his entire physique. He sure was a wild card. This time, the mask had been taken off, if Silver Eye ever wished to gain the trust of his subordinate. You're correct. In one or two things. I have no vision for the continent. The only thing it did to me was taking it away. My name, my imagination, my troops, honor, my pride, and even my blood. All of it made me bury the Duke of Perchland and become this mystery figure. I won't give you answers of his past, because he has none. It doesn't dream of a better world, because its beliefs and dreams of one were killed with Desmond Parati. Without even realizing it, during his tantrum, Silvereye let out his true identity, before turning himself to Silvereye. His real name was and will be Desmond Parati. The guard captain was this time the disappointed one in the conversation. A sense of worry waved through his eyes while he prepared to answer for his opinions. Childish claims. So you'll admit it. You only seek power for the sake of it. That is not the way of order. That was not Desmond for how much I've heard about you. If Desmond Parati was the same power-hungry fear-mongering landlord, I bleed out. Losing your eye wasn't enough. You are no different than the Chaos Empire. That cult driven by jealousy, bitterness and self-pity. Enemy of Inamorta. Shame on you. I thought I told you. Desmond is dead. Silvereye let out an uncontrolled scream. The captain was not hinged the slightest. He knew what he could do in any scenario at this point. He betrayed his own order, but perhaps he was worth it, if he could just catch this delusional soul. You claim to be a different person than him, but you share the same chains to the past. What did that your honor mean, Desmond? You can't bury your own self. Who else are you? Your facade figure constantly shifts his mood to one I believe you to really be. You don't have to try fool me, nor yourself. You have a faction to lead. Present yourself as the man who you truly are. After that speech, silence struck the air for tens of seconds. The other half of the conversation was emotionally distressed and struck down, while the other half was determined and hardened like bones after a healed crack. Silvereye took for a while to process those words he heard. Captain was correct. If he kept acting like this blank slate, unloyalty and suspicion to his abilities and leadership were inevitable. It was now or then too late. Silvereye took his hat off and told the captain the following. Perhaps it is that way. When I tried to cut my connection to the past, I only drowned further in them. Help me get in terms with it, please. All I wanted was to protect Inamorta from the unknown elements. I just thought that those symbols and powers the Empire had acquired weren't used for their full potential. Just look around you. Desmond somber in pity and fear while his voice kept shaking. If you just listen to me now. I will help you, but not today. If sleep is not a necessity to you, I apologize. Captain stated and left the balcony to the dark inside the voltaic citadel. The two made a deal that Desmond Silvereye Parati should in the following days state clear goal for his own group of raiders and make sure about what they are fighting for. Meanwhile, Xyphos returned to his camp, still coughing blood and walking like a toddler out of the pain. He didn't react to anything around him, and he looked otherwise like a slain boy without a purpose anymore. When he initially managed to get into his own tent, the first thing which came into his mind was to write a letter and report about the events further. Xyphos stepped inside his own tent, went to the desk and started to write. This is what we need. I've learned from the last battle my mistakes, and that the Kai shall not be underestimated. I'm not well, and so are not my troops. Atreus is finally found, but he is not the man we know him to be. He's changed. If this letter ever gets to your awareness, please help us. Our future depends on it. Call out of all of your troops from the gathering and bring them here. We may be followed by the biggest and most threatening foe Inamorta has ever seen. If this curse, which I had to confront tonight, takes over, remember that they all are still fighting against it. Their heart cannot be altered by anyone other than themselves. Your appointed brother and the leader of the sword draft, Xyphos. The report was obviously incomplete and lacked sufficiency, but the state where it was written didn't enable any proper possibilities for a report. Xyphos then wrapped the message into a letter he left on top of his desk and went to sleep. Tomorrow's another day. The royal siblings, Thera, Kaiju and Shade, had made it to the intended meeting of the Point of the Order army. The clock was 9:35 a.m. when their armies had arrived there. 150 archidons, 10 completely trained merrics, and 20 seasoned Shadowraft had departed and made their first initial location to the rest. Without anything else to do other than wait for further knowledge of the situation, all they could do now is wait. Wait for more cavalry and when Xyphos with his own troops would arrive. In their own bigger tent, the royal siblings held a meeting where they'd decide their next direct place to engage with. With most of the lands here being cleaned years ago, there shouldn't be any surprises for us to come across. I insist that we keep just pressing until we find any sort of activities. There shouldn't be anything too afraid of, right? Shade stated while sounding to her sisters very cold, distant and uncaring in her apathy. Thera immediately catched onto it and presented a more personal question. Where is such an attitude? You would be the first one to move only a mile in a day if it wasn't catching your foes. Is something wrong? Kaiju quickly reassured Thera with a nod and continued. We would know how to help if you for once told us how you feel. What was it about the confrontation with the rebels which made you so downturned? They're gone now, and we will find them. Kaiju tried to get Shade open up more about her head, but Shade herself interrupted her and sidelined a further question by simply replying. The Duke of Pentland can be behind this. Losing him was one thing, but him becoming as a criminal so soon. How am I supposed to take that?
She shouted, which told its own message. Leave me alone. Kaiju was still persistent and begged more answers, but Thera, who had more experience how to help people with their drama, placed her hand on Kaiju's shoulder and whispered, she might need more time. So the two left the tent, in hopes Shade would open up after she had gathered her own head together. Kaiju and Thera were walking aimlessly around the camp area, while trying to get behind what was going on with Shade. Kaiju, who still remembered the last morning's painting misery and Shade's last words before they had left the tent, and soon connected the dots together. It must be it! Shade is not only recollecting the loss of Desmond, but also his possible return. Thera, who was not fully aware of the situation, presented a question. What do you mean by his return? Then Kaiju told Thera about the events that had occurred a few days ago. A prison break was not just a coincidence. Shade saw with her own eyes what was going on and who their leader was. After her failed attempt to stop their escape, She couldn't do much but mourn over her defeat and the idea that the man she loved, and who was supposed to be the shadow at second in command, had returned after only months of his banishment. When Thera realized this, she couldn't help but leak a tear. Loss was already causing wrath, but having something twisting and direct to a direction you didn't see coming feels so much worse. Speaking of losses and the weird chain of command, Thera remembered Atreus. She hadn't heard anything about him other than his return and departure. She was not there when Atreus finally presented himself as the big name on the battlefield, and no one had found him after that evening. Thera let out a worried complaint over the questionable case of her brother. Kaiju, my sister, do you believe this starts to remind you of something? What happened to Atreus after the Lunar Club's encounter? Uncle Zilaros only told us he wanted to leave out of idiocy. But there has to be something more to it. Kaiju glanced at Thera reassuringly, like she tried to say that he'll be all right, but neither of them were truly able to be sure about the chain of events, because they were not there. I think we should trust in Sipho's and his men over there. Atreus won't be gone forever, Kaiju replied, but her voice lacked a certain confidence and attitude which told Thera that she really didn't believe in her own words. Suddenly the chat was interrupted by one Merrick who joined the conversation with a seeming interest and eager mind. The Merrick told that her name was Mia, and that she was the youngest Merrick out of the group Thera had rallied. Mia had underneath her robe a long curly blonde hair, which was long enough to be spotted between her forehead and the robe's hood. She also had big youthful eyes, full of life and excitement. Despite her desired beauty, she was in truth coming from a poor background, and with sole purpose of she became a Merrick was because it was only form of cheap, completely free education and profession. Did I hear you talk about Sir Atreus, right, Mistress Thera and Mr. Kaiju? Where has your brother seen all of this time? Where has your brother been all of this time? He didn't show his face anywhere in public after his supposed return. Mia asked from curiosity. Thera gave both Mia and Kaiju a worried look. Mia was correct. Atreus didn't really talk to anyone after his return, and specifically around Zilaros, he sparked weird energy, like he was angry about something. Kaiju then replied back, keeping the conversation going. We don't really know why he didn't. Besides, his worldview could be questionable after his second departure. We know nothing, really. Mia's expression turned from her happy face to an active body language to indescribably disappointed. No wonder you don't know, mistresses. You didn't even pay attention to your uncle Archmage Zilaros, it seems. Do you believe that the lands of Sigleby and Lavish were raided simply for the sake of rebellious demeanor? Or what about King Zavrik? How much he has been involved with decision-making these last 2 years? After Mr. Shake saved him? Thera and Kaiju looked at each other with a sense of realization. Their father has been very absent from leadership and decision-making. It was always Zilaros who said the last word when an order was given and executed. Most importantly, Zarek was not even there when Atreus confronted Zilaros after the battle against Lunar Clubs. Thera expressed her thoughts out loud, and so Mia gave her own opinion about it. It was something one would not have expected, and was such an out-of-nowhere statement that both royal siblings didn't quite know how to reply it at first. Wasn't it brave from Sir Atreus to stand up against the Archmage Zilaros? I think it was very arrogant of him attacking and claiming the majestic gold mines to himself. Thera and Kaiju did not expect such an abrupt direction in opinion. Mia was brash and harsh, but she was not exactly wrong either about it. because the royal siblings had not yet even considered the nature of Zelarus's acts. They tried to cut the conversation short to get some time and process these events on display with their full attention. Xyphos, while the day was beginning, woke up significantly later than usual, and his confrontation with Atreus immediately began to haunt him and devour his soul. Was his brother gone? Was he still there fighting for him? Both? What was Marokai's part in the story? Where he gained the power of seeming voodoo abilities? Questions eating his head were not going to stop arriving, but all he had to do was bottle up them and stay collected. When Xyphos thought of that, he remembered it. Stay strong. It was Atreus. There was a way to get him back. This raised Xyphos' morale way higher than he expected. Stay strong. How fitting. It sounded so fitting and improvising for the moment. Xyphos had to be the man of his soldiers' need. He had to be the one calling the shots and take care of them. Now was the time when Xyphos shouldn't try to play a hero. Every single time he tried, it failed. A slower and more strategic approach was a necessity. Today he should try again and catch Marokai with his brother. He had means to call backup, and this was such a perfect chance to correct his mistakes as a leader. If his men were just able to fight, he had to try and take his vengeance. Xyphos stepped out of his tent and saw his troops being woken up, but they were exhausted and eaten by battles and hardships. All they could have hoped was a brief moment of rest, but what else there was to be done? Xyphos couldn't just let this happen. This time, he had to be the strong one. Attention, the remnants of my loyal army group. Our last fight was rough and unforgivable. It is time for me to apologize to all of you. This time, we will have a strategy up our sleeve. We have a chance to kill the sorcerer of evil, and I'm not going to let that chance get away from my hands. All of the other soldiers glanced at Xyphos distantly. Where was such motivation all of a sudden, they wondered. Xyphos was completely demoralized back after their last encounter with chaos, and yesterday was a living proof of that, given how apathic his gestures were. All of the other soldiers were equally as torn down by their losses in numbers, but their last minute success had restored part of their confidence, something Xyphos has been losing since then. It was until the other officers arrived, when everyone's mood started to get to the right. Sir, where shall we move then? We have no knowledge over Marokai's location, stated the current Lieutenant Learwood. Xyphos hadn't really thought about it, but after some time and ideas from his subordinates, he came up with a proper unified plan, so the short draft camp started the hunt once again. Their only concern was surely not far, and they had to keep moving if they wished to catch up with the skeletal mage wreaking havoc around Inamorta.
Meanwhile, Marokai and his Dragonite were planning their own departure to North Inamorta and the remnants of Chaos Empire's fortress. Marokai was pressing Atreus about his beliefs, while the Dragonite were building a raft to cross the sea separating the provinces of Westwind and Gargo's Keep. Mother is no longer here. All I ever cared or even should was and is who I am now. I am the Dark Lord of the Dead and the Overlord of Chaos. I am the bringer of pain and fear. My hatred will consume them all, and I shall gain everything when I have claimed it. I can stop the decay. I stop weakening. In a world where only the strong will thrive, that is pure chaos.
Atreus felt his anger boiling inside his guts when he heard Kai's words over the future. Anger which was enforced and strengthened by the curse he was conquered by. He couldn't help it and let out an angry, over-the-top scream, which carried indescribable fear, sorrow and hatred at the same time. What has gotten into you? You wish everyone to live like me while you become a god. You are not Adikai. You are not my brother. I knew that. You are only a weak, flimsy skeleton without a spirit of bravery. Atreus went on his tantrum, but Kai allowed it all to happen. He only whispered to his own self, "Yes, give into it," with quiet smugness. Kai's power over Atreus would only rise when Atreus was angry, and now there was no stopping it. Kai knew, or at least expected, that Atreus didn't mean those words, because he felt surge of power going through Atreus and by extension, Kai himself. Kai stopped for a second to test his puppet's new limits, and ordered Atreus to cut a small tree down by striking it with bare knuckles. The puppet did exactly that, and wouldn't you know, the targeted tree fell down with ease, leaving Atreus next to it, breathing heavily and returning to his conscious state. His consciousness always faded when he was ordered something, and with very little trying to fight back, he fulfilled the wish. Through time, his consciousness would return, even when the order was not fulfilled. All he could do was just listen to the voice inside his head. While the Dark Lord kept enraging Atreus, the faction under Xyphos' control tracked down the Chaos Battalion they had fought against for a while now. Blood and footprints were left by the deaths, and that gave the soldiers a good hint where they should head next. With bravery, determination, and the faith of ending the war by defeating the Dark Lord, they marched through the pine woods of Westwind, following the possible clues that would lead them to their destination. Xyphos, despite his mind and body being tested to their extremes, still kept marching with his men. His chest began to ache, and it really felt like something there was broken. His own health was a perfect metaphor for the situation. You have to pick your moves wisely, or you will die. Xyphos' officers were surprised by his weak and torn condition, but Xyphos assured that they don't have to worry about it. As long as this sword does not spread, and Xyphos' bones would still stick together, he will be his soldiers fighting for a cause. While they were marching through, they heard some louder and bigger steps which were not by a stick figure. Also, the green leaves of the bushes were making some noise, and it was like everyone kept spotting some movement behind the greenery. Kai was also having a weak situation. His dead mass was decayed and devoured by heat and burns, which accelerated the corpse's degradation. In other words, his deaths at disposal were about to get lost because of decay, causing the deaths to fall completely apart. Kai had already gained everything he wanted, so everything which mattered for him anymore was that he could get out of Westwind. Little did he know, Hurry would soon catch him. After Xyphos' troops had marched for a while, Kliki once again presented himself to the sword draft. This time, Kliki was not as persistent and actually played along with the soldiers. Xyphos was incredibly surprised but also relieved by this event. After their last meeting, he formed a belief that Kliki would only listen to his master. But this thought turned out to be incorrect, luckily. After a while, Kliki would try and take the lead of the sword draft and bring them to Atreus. Everyone at least thought of it. Maybe he was trying to lead them to his master. Click was a rip rider taken hostage by Atreus when both of them were still just young little boys. After a while, Clicky became sort of second face of Atreus. The pet was a living proof of Atreus' goodwill and heart, which managed to even get into other species than just stick figures. This gave Atreus the reputation of half-saint, and this is why so many admired him. He had the best of chances to finally get the scattered unities of Inamorta together and form true morally driven society of true order. Clicky had been very intensely looking for Atreus after the Lunar Club's confrontation. These attempts failed because of Chaos Empire had found Atreus first, and because of it, Clicky didn't have the chance to get into Atreus' sight. He was afraid. This time, though, he even had help by older soldiers. So now it was not about courage. Clicky was able to smell his master and locate him, and they were not far away. Marrokai had used the lagoon-like river in Westwind to get the most recent battlefield. They were driven by the curiosity to find out what might have caused the eclipse that happened 2 days ago. Along that, they found out the location of Atreus and what he has been doing for a while. Because of the rumor of Atreus leaving the Empire forever spreading like wildfire, powered by gallons of gasoline. Also, Kai's knowledge was not spared over his brother's location. Kai also thought that he could now test some new relics he had found from his own piece of the map, which was torn down during the Order's investigation of Gargo's Keep. Kai's Juggernauts kept building them a new raft to leave Westwind, while Atreus kept wondering why Kai didn't plan any escape routes for his dead. He always got an answer like, "There will be enough of them without those." Despite Atreus being an unwavering servant to the Dark Lord of the Dead, his own philosophy still stayed the same. Marrokai was not yet concerned. His plans had just begun, and something more vicious had already been prepared. While the Juggernauts were still building a new raft for their departure, footsteps of a marching army started to echo from the distance. Every one of the Chaos Empire soldiers knew what this meant. They had to act immediately.
"Sir, I suggest that we abandon this place. There's nothing to lose,"
one of the Juggernauts shouted. Kai and the rest of the 4 Juggernauts didn't agree with this. He raised his sight upwards, and his eyes started to glow red again. He said like he was in a hypnosis.
"Protect us and circle us. Do not let them get us."
And so the dead had at their disposal formed an arc around their small hideout. The steps kept becoming closer and closer, until the sword-wrapped company was at their sight. Atreus felt like his heart was sliced when he saw Xyphos trying to crawl with his other troops and Clicky standing alongside him. Marrokai presented himself to his pursuers by walking next to the line of deads, protecting him. Even he was amazed by Xyphos' temper and determination. The woods suddenly became completely silent and full of tension when the dead sword-wrapped were only meters away from each other. It was all silent for a while. Both sides stood still, waiting. Who would make the first move? What it would be? Who in reality had the upper hand? After a moment, which felt like eternity, Xyphos scattered himself and prepared for a leap attack, starting the battle. This time, the sword-wrapped were better prepared and organized for action. They were able to repel any pouncer dead attacks with proper formations, and their deaths were already so decayed that their movement speed had significantly lowered since their last confrontation. Marrokai, when he realized the situation, ordered Atreus to attack his best companion, Clicky. Atreus, despite his own persistence, attacked at him, and yet the two started their own festival. Marrokai was pleased by the results, but when he had taken his attention off from the events in front of him, Xyphos managed to land a hit on him, and Kai fell to the dirty ground while his bones clattered due to the impact. In surprise, Kai let out a desperate and hateful scream towards Xyphos.
How can you do this? How did you find peace after all I've done? Haven't I tormented you enough?
Xyphos, unfazed by this preparing for a second strike, defiantly told to Kai what has helped him to get through the psychological testing. It is about caring. Who do you care about? My head does not give up just like that when I know what I'm fighting for. Thank Atreus for that. Xyphos aimed his thrust at Kai's heart, which was at the last bit of flesh left in him. Kai was still fast enough and performed his signature Hellfist move at his foe.
If your mind does not give up, then so won't mine. You were the one who brought me this far. When your head does not crumble, your grounded body will,
Kai declared. Xyphos felt that something strong had just gripped him. Kai's monstrous arm that rose from the ground, picking him up and squeezing so hard that it was impossible to breathe. Suddenly, Kai pulled his fist down and Xyphos with it. All Xyphos was able to do at the moment was close his eyes and hope for the best. Clicky and Atreus kept on with their wrestling. Atreus tried to keep distance from his former pet with the help of his spear, while Clicky tried to get his attention by making familiar noises and squeaks. Atreus couldn't help but let tears stream through his mask and keep thrusting his spear at Clicky. Clicky, with his head, managed to sway the tip of Atreus' spear out of the way and rush towards him. Clicky managed to get Atreus back at his back and rushed next at Kai. The Ripjaw ran through the line of deaths, passing Xyphos, who was now struck into the ground, and only his head was visible. Kai had his Reaper glowing red and preparing for a strike, until he recognized Clicky's attack and tried to dodge it. His skeleton was not fast enough, and Clicky struck him with his nose. Kai flew a few meters or two away because of this, until a Juggernaut caught him. Before Kai realized what was going on, he let out a complaint.
This wicked, soft, flimsy corpse!
The Juggernaut, who had caught him, started to run away from the situation.
Sir, our craft is prepared.
Call Atreus here, and so we can get away. Atreus soon realized what was going on, and dropped out from Clicky's ride. When Clicky realized this, he turned towards his master's side, screeching and snarling. When he saw Atreus with his arms spread around, he couldn't help but try and close his master. Atreus was in posture which looked like he tried to hug Clicky the best he could, but his inner rage inflicted by the pain and the frustration were too strong. He let out a quick, still emotional, and collected, "Forgive me," before he ran away to catch up with his rest companions. Xyphos, being partially buried underground, couldn't do anything but watch as the Dark Lord of the Dead got away, again having humiliated him and stolen his brother's free will. However, when Xyphos glanced around him, he realized that his sword rat had already won the remaining deaths. This time the mood was way different. Everyone knew this time who the real winner was, and the threat was once again like a mountain had been washed away from the province of Westwind. Xyphos was helped out from the ground and he was pulled in. Xyphos was helped to get out from the ground, he was pulled in, and the sword rat could return to their camp. this time Clicky being with them. A taste of victory in his mouth, Xyphos finally was sure that he can leave his army alone and move to North Inamorta. Much out of convenience, the Rip Riders responsible for escorting Sir Xyphos towards his destination arrived this evening. During Xyphos' departure, some of his men wanted to give their letters meant for their families to the riders. Xyphos already knew what would read in them. War has been going on for how long? As long as they have been away from their wives and children. This tragedy Marokai will pay for. He thought, while his escort began with some other officers. As the Rip Riders and Clicky with them kept running through the sunset's light, a feeling of an ending started to carve into everyone's mind. Something everyone had felt last time when they were marching towards the gates of Medusa's castle. Will the conflict over Inamorta and its fate finally end?
The elemental raiders under Desmond Parati have been forming their official plan for the incoming quest. Vrathnal and Spiros already knew for sure where they wished to go, and had some loyalists under their sleeve. Mira with Archis and her group were going with Desmond towards North Inamorta to get the Earth Elemental symbol and activate the possible stronghold. Mira had memorized the area very well during her years as a rebel. Matsu decided to stay in his capital and take a look at the holographic map they had acquired. Desmond and his crew were about to make their own set-off and prepared goodbyes. He had also shared a copy of his research with translation, each of the elemental language letters to the letters used by the Order Empire. They stood in the front yard of the voltaic citadel, sunset casting a layer of orange to the sky and surroundings. Everything was ready until the guard captain stopped him for once more. Remember what we spoke about last night? I really wish that we could gain a full understanding of your vision for a better Inamorta, Desmond. Mr. Parati took a while to consider this request. All of his subordinates listen and hear the truth about himself. No one ever could have predicted the truth about the fate of a once beloved officer because of his own greed and thirst for recognition. Finally, Desmond felt like everything was at least in parts ready to be revealed. My subordinates, before we depart, let me make something clear.
My true goals are not like I claimed. Thank you to God, Captain, for opening my eyes and sharing a vision for all of us. Our duty is to build a better Inamorta without the threats it has, and to claim the almighty power for order. I owe you an apology for mongering fear in you. All I wanted was just to fulfill my own ambitions. To this point, you all have done well for that. Take my gratitude for it. But something else I've been questioned about is my hopes for the Order Empire. Something which means the whole world for some of you. I don't really know what I wish for. That was something I never considered. Silence covered the entire voltaic capital. It was all just pure tension, waiting to be resolved. No one was to speak. No one was to emote. Desmond, without a clue, only tried to think of something ready, but to no avail. Attention, friends, echoed through the silence, coming out of nowhere. It was the captain. He took matters into his own hands and declared swiftly, without a hint of hesitation. We will gain the power of the elementals to our own hands. We will finally perish all sources of chaos out of this world and finally retrieve power dynamics to the way that they were designed to be. We will restore the golden age of order and revenge everything that has happened to us. Follow our expert, and we finally end this conflict.
We have witnessed for eternity. Once that was said, everyone began to roar in determination and loyalty. It was all pure and giving. Desmond felt like he was safe for now. Finally, there were no secrets to keep for no gain, and now loyalty towards him was now testament in a way he could only dream. Chief, Spears said out loud with fear and a worry in his voice. Desmond recognized this and tried to get Spears' help with calm and care. Yes, what is it? He asked. Spears took a few seconds to collect himself, wiped his worries and suspecting expression away, and told about his little insecurity. Pardon my thoughts. I thought I am not capable of this. None of us have been any sort of mystery solvers, and all of this cryptic is completely unheard of me. If we split up, I may not be the best at handling the possible puzzles ahead of us. Desmond's look turned from eager and diligent to sympathetic and calm when he heard Spears' doubts. Desmond quickly reassured his subordinates. I have faith in you. Just remember, there always will be a pattern which every single piece of text follows. The pattern is the origin of Inamorta and the elements. Remember, their part in the story, their purpose and role. I am confident that you will surely figure out everything on your own. Desmond stated profoundly. This time he was not doing it to play any games or a power complex. He only wished his allies to succeed in their mission. Rathna and Spear stood firm on the ground with determination and confidence. Desmond's words indeed got to them. With everything finally clear and organized, the elemental raiders could start their final quest to unlock this godly power they've been teased and hinted about. Everyone, you know what is to come and where we will meet once the citadels have been activated. For every one of you, I wish good and safe trip and goodbyes. Hopefully we will see you soon. Desmond cried to his followers in happiness and faith. I can only wish that enemy is all right after the way I treated him. I was indeed just an enemy of Inamorta. Desmond pondered inside his head. So the elemental raiders started their march towards their destination. Food and shelter had to be found soon, but because the promise of something otherworldly was so tempting, no one could think of anything else. Very little did they know. Each of the factions at display had set up a course which would finally bring the true winner of Inamorta to light. The true final showdown between each members of the world were now marching towards each other, and their skills, faith, abilities, and mind would be tested in ways beyond imagination right now. When everything looks so bright, to be continued. So, that was chapter 4 of Heroes of Inamorta. Not my favorite chapters, I would say. This was kind of a kind of an odd place because chapter 3 and 4 especially, where there's kind of now we can finally get the story move somewhere. But it was kind of I just can't do this and do that. I have to set it up and I have to build it up. For example, Marokai. Well, Marokai is one of the biggest players in this chapter, and also he has this little arc where he just comes to the conclusion that he has to kill Xyphos in order to get rid of him, and all that. It was kind of, well, I have to do this here if I'm ever going to do it. And I think it worked pretty well. But one thing, the descriptions really suffered with these, in these few chapters, because a lot of repetition was there, and also it was otherwise very rushed and poorly thought out. So the writing could have used an improvement, but I wrote that back in the days, and I'm not disappointed by it. Not at all. And the story is what I care the most. But yeah, this wasn't as interesting chapter as some of the others might be, and will be. Anyhow, I hope you liked it though. I had fun writing it, but also not so much because I was just waiting to get to all of the other good stuff I would have. But hey, that's all said and done. Bye bye.